What is up, everybody? It's your boy Duty back again with another video, and that's right, folks, it's your favorite segment, my favorite segment, everyone's favorite segment, where we actually do a deep dive of the financial data for DSP gaming / DSP throwbacks / DSP rags / potentially DSP politics. And during this segment every week, we take a look at DSP's tips and super chats for the work week. And we do kind of a deep dive. And by the way, big ups to the person last week who made the recommendation of going dark mode for the spreadsheet because it makes it easier to read. The problem is that Google Sheets doesn't support dark mode for browser. It does for iPhones and Android, but not for browser. But what I did was I just made the background black and made the text white. So I hope this makes it a little bit easier for everyone to read. And by the way, yes, that's right, your boy Duty does listen to suggestions and actually implements them and doesn't complain and try to come up with 3,000 excuses for why I can't implement a suggestion. So big ups to the person who gave me that recommendation. I hope it makes it a little bit easier for you to read. I also changed the font from Arial to Comic Sans. I think it's a little bit wider, so it makes it easier to look at the numbers. So again, thank you, and your boy Duty's always open for feedback and suggestions, and will actually implement them. So let's get on with it, folks. So by the way, you guys know that the work week was a short work week. Our boy Phil decided to switch his day off, which is very interesting, by the way. If you watched my first video earlier today, I surmised that our girl, Fat Cat, actually has rage quit life. I don't think she's working anymore. I think she's at home due to two reasons. One, she's at home all the time now. She never seems to not be there. She was showering yesterday during Phil's podcast. And the second thing is that Phil no longer takes breaks during his streams to go see his wife when she comes home from work. And that hasn't happened in a few months. Phil just goes and take a pee and probably play some WWE Champion. So anyway, I just wanted to put that information out there because that can also explain why Phil has been in a panic and been begging super hard, because now he no longer has that three-day work week paycheck that Cat was bringing in, and now he actually has to support two people on his YouTube salary. So anyway, so for the work week, as we know, it was a shorter work week, and this week Phil managed to pull in $704 in tips, which is, man, not good at all, compared to last week where he made $957. Two things happened this week. Baldur's Gate, which Phil played three times, which helped save the work week. And OIC. OIC is back, and of course he's out there using his split personalities and decided to tip and super chat multiple times under different names. But of course, with past history, we know these are OIC socks. Mainly on the 25th, when he came in and dropped 3 big super chat bombs for $300, which is why if you look on the 25th, the total for super chats was $413. So big ups to OIC for holding it down and coming back and helping Phil save the work week. But if it wasn't for that, this week would have been abysmal. Baldur's Gate and OIC dropping super chats. So let's look at the super chats. Now, for the super chats, he made $592. Again, that was all due in part to the one day where OIC decided to drop a whole bunch of super chats. So if you take that $413 out, I mean, Phil's week would have just been bad. But again, like I always say every fucking week, if the tips are low, the super chats are slightly higher. If the super chats are low, the tips are slightly higher. Again, there's no real new money there. It's just them shuffling paper. They're trying to figure out how to appease Phil when he begs. And of course, we know Phil's been begging for the last several weeks for the YouTube side contributions. He wants those to increase. Now, of course, we know Phil wants tips to increase and the super chats and memberships. But he's been harping on YouTube side because his check is going to be abysmal, and he needs to justify to Cat why he has no money to pay all the bills when the February check comes in on March 21st. So that's why he's been really harping on this. I mean, it makes no sense. Who cares where you get the money from as long as you get the money? And it makes more sense to actually get tips than super chats because, of course, PayPal gets a smaller cut. So why would Phil be okay with PayPal, with people donating through super chats and memberships, and he's not seeing 30% of that? Of course, we've talked about this before. This is Phil's way of checking his gambling addiction. If it's in the YouTube check, it's hard for him to touch it. He doesn't get it every day where he can cash it out like he does with his PayPal tips and waste it on WWE champions. So that's the reason why. He'd rather take the 30% hit because it's the only way he can control himself. And that's why he wants the YouTube side contributions to be increased. But don't forget, the tips still need to be up there as well. So for the work week, Phil managed to pull in $1,296, which is a slight bump from the previous week, which was an additional, really wasn't much at all. It was an additional $131. And again, Baldur's Gate 3 times, and then OIC coming in and saving the work week with those huge super chats on the 25th. And I believe this was when Phil was doing the throwback content Sunday night. So if we look at the totals for the month, February, it looks like Phil has managed to make $5,103, which is less than the previous month. In the previous month, in January, he made $5,789. So it looks like Phil is again starting his downward decline when it comes to tips and super chats. And when we do the yearly compare, you're just going to see the trend continuing. So let's look at 2024 so far as a whole. We've almost gone through 2 months, right? And Phil so far for tips for 2024 has managed to make $8,287, which is about $4,100 a month average. Compared that to the previous year of 2023, he made $9,035. For super chats, Phil so far this year has made $2,605, which again, those YouTube side contributions have been abysmal. Couple that with memberships, and it's been really bad for Phil. So for 2023, Phil managed to make $3,687 for the same period. Combine the totals for 2024, Phil has made $10,892. Compare that to 2023 for the same time period, where he made $12,725. So that is a net decrease of negative 15%, which lowered a little bit. It actually, it dropped a little bit. It was at 19%, I think, last week. So big ups to OIC for coming in and dropping some serious cash. I know he's been hard up for cash lately because of all of his medical treatments. But big ups to come in and save the work week. Now, the picture looks even more terrible when you compare it to 2022. So in 2024, like I said, Phil managed to make $10,892. And again, folks, don't forget, these are just super chats and tips. These are gross numbers. I didn't take out the YouTube percentages, taxes, or PayPal's percentage. These are just raw numbers. I know Phil likes to bitch about that I make it seem like he's making more than what he's actually getting. No, I always say these are gross totals. And yes, I'm not including the deductions for YouTube and PayPal and taxes. But that's normal shit. When people ask you what's your salary, you normally give them the gross amount. You don't give them the net amount. You give them the gross amount. So don't bitch. So again, for 2024, he's made $10,892. For 2023, he made $12,725, right? But for 2022, Phil made $17,227 for a net decrease of negative 37%. Nearly 40% of Phil's income over a span of a year and a couple months has dropped 37%. That's huge. I don't care who you are. I don't care what Phil likes to portray, that he's a successful YouTuber and runs a successful business. When you look at these numbers, it tells a different fucking story. And again, numbers don't lie, Phil. I'm not massaging these numbers. These aren't fake numbers. I'm not pulling these numbers out of my ass. These are numbers that are tracked on every single stream you do. Every live stream you do, Phil, these numbers are tracked and record it. And not just me, multiple people. This information that I get here are from multiple sources that actually pull your data and review it. And I definitely, every time I do my weekly review, I make sure that those numbers match my numbers. There are a couple people on Twitter, Gamerface Gaming, and some other folks that actually do these numbers analysis. And I always confer to make sure my numbers are accurate. And usually they are. Maybe they might be off by $1 or $2 because some people actually look at the full tip amount, not the whatever Phil populates on the screen. But either way, it's very close. Our numbers match pretty closely. Yeah, it's not good for Phil. I don't care what rose glass says he's trying to portray here. But like I said today on my earlier Daily Rap video, Phil occasionally does tell the truth. And today he actually did tell the truth. And he talked about how abysmal his business is and how he's lost significant amount of revenue. And that the only thing that kept him afloat was Baldur's Gate 3. In the last 2.5 months, if he didn't play Baldur's Gate, no one gave a fuck. No one came, no one saw, no one supported. And even now, Baldur's Gate, no one's watching that shit. No one. He gets maybe 200 or 300 views on his streams. He gets a couple hundred views on the playthrough, on demand playthrough. And that's it. And the only reason why he hits the tier 2 tip goal is because typically one person comes out and drops some cash. One whale comes out and drops a $50 dono. And then you got 1 Minute Man dropping his usual $25 dono. Right there, that's $75. Two people. It's pretty sad. And yeah, so not everything is looking good for our boy Phil, and it's gonna look even worse. He thinks Final Fantasy is gonna save the business. I'm sorry. With if you go back last year and previous years, especially last year, these RPGs that he plays, he gets one good stream support and then it dies off. Look at Final Fantasy 16, look at God of War, look at just a number of playthroughs from last year. And every single one of them, the support died down. The only one that hasn't was Baldur's Gate. Baldur's Gate 3 was the only playthrough that he had significant support, and it was consistent. Everything else died off after the second or third playthrough. And you know, because he sits there and fucking complains. Look at this year. Look at Tekken and look at Like a Dragon. Those two, no fucking support whatsoever. No one gives a shit. No one comes out. No one supported. And he's gonna shelve Baldur's Gate and only do it once a week? Yeah, give him a week. Give him a week of playing Final Fantasies. The numbers will probably drop like they always do. And we're gonna see Baldur's Gate back at it 4 days in a week. He's going to become the Baldur's Gate 3 streamer because he has nothing else. He has no new ideas. And once Baldur's Gates go bye-bye, he may be so desperate and play it again. Anyway, that's the video, folks. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Peace out.